Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well and your loved ones are doing well and you're staying safe. And I hope you're getting used to the way of working, right? I think we're sort of coming to a place where we all have these new routines that we try to get used to, although there are some reminders of how life used to be, I guess. There's a little bit of cabin fever and so on, but I guess we're getting there. Um, in terms of how we are doing, we're okay. We're innovating in our teaching of the homeschool. It seems just sitting at a table and doing work doesn't really cut it anymore for anyone, and we're getting a bit tired. So we're trying a few new things, online resources, and so on. So that's coming along. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the essays. I've received some emails, and there are some questions which I felt like I needed to answer to the to the classroom, if you will, so that all can benefit. And I feel like they're important questions. The one question I had was about well, whether there's going to be a marking sheet with detailed criteria. And I thought about this and I took some advice as well. And the feeling is that this is what's replacing the exam now, isn't it? And we turned it into a coursework because I wanted to give you the topic earlier rather than put you in a 48-hour situation. But beyond the criteria that I first defined and gave you some detail on, I don't think there are any more criteria. But I will go through them today, right now, and describe to you a little bit more what I mean, and I hope that helps. So the first criterion was describe clearly the context in which the method is applied. Now, in terms of the context, what I'm looking for is a sort of a description of the environment in which the method is to be applied. Now, this could be a common business problem or an organizational setting, or it could be a process that organizations go through. What I'm looking for is you to describe how this context could be made better through the application of the method. So it could be something that we've been doing a certain way for a number of years, and well, if we apply social networks or system dynamics to it, maybe it could be better in a way. Not that it's bad now, but that the KPIs could improve, I guess. Another question that I had was, can you take a pre-existing application, so either in practice or in literature? The answer is yes. If you want to take what others have done and present that, that's okay. Obviously, with your own words and describing it in a good way. I wouldn't base it on a single paper, for example. If you do have a single paper in an area, then add some more context yourself. Read about the practice side a little bit. Or the question says, can you actually create your own little context, and you're welcome to do that as well. In fact, I think some of what people are doing is they're saying, okay, well, here's the general problem, and here's the general context, and here's the literature on it. But then I'm going to take a smaller chunk of it and describe how I would do analysis on this smaller chunk because I have only 1,000 words. So that works as well. Okay. So there you have a little bit of freedom there in determining what the context is. The next criterion says describe clearly how the method was applied to context. Now, so I'm looking for a description of how the method can be applied. I'm not looking for you to run the analysis, although I know a few of you are doing it for demonstration purposes. It's not a requirement, and so the idea is, well, how does the method fit with the context, and how does the method improve the context then? Okay, so the first section was the context and what the context is and what it is that we're trying to improve in a way, and the second section is about, well, how does that application work? Now you don't really need to present the details. I've been asked about, do we need to draw a picture of the social network or create all the feedback diagrams and stock and flow diagrams and so on. I think it will help you to have some diagrams in, but you don't need to do the full analysis. I would say one or two at most to show how things work and to demonstrate the methodologies. I don't think you need anything beyond that, to be honest. You can create a sort of smaller version of the bigger problem and say, look, here's a positive feedback loop in this context that will work in a certain way. and that would be enough, okay? Or here's a small part of that social network, or a layer of the social network, and here are some of the brokers who do this kind of job. So again, not a full-fledged analysis, and certainly not how the statistics work, or description of what a p-value is for, and so on. It is more of a qualitative discussion that I'm looking for. We're focusing on application here, okay? And I know we've been a lot of problem solving, but notice that the exam was going to be more application anyway. But look at past exams; they're 50-50 between problem solving and evaluation. So this is we're evaluating here. Now the final criterion has to do with challenges and limitations. Now challenges and limitations. One question I was asked was, what's the difference between challenges and limitations? So the challenges have to do with applying the difficulties in applying the methodology. Okay, so if we are applying the methodology, so I just need to close the door here. So if we're applying the methodology, then the methodology needs data. So is data availability an issue? The methodology needs to take the data and then analyze it in a certain way. So can that data be analyzed in that way, and so on. So the challenges have to do with, well, if we were able to still apply the method perfectly, what would be the difficulties that we face? Now the difference of that, the difference between challenges and limitations is that limitations have to do with, even if we were to apply the method perfectly, what does the method not do for us, right? Social network analysis is going to give us the structure of the network. It's going to say certain things about the network based on structures and so on. But at the individual level, in terms of how people might do certain things, or about things that don't have to do with the network, but that have to do with, say, the structure of the product you're dealing with, and so on. So you can come up with sort of these contexts which don't lend themselves well. So even if you were able to apply the method perfectly, what does the method not do? Okay, so the challenges are, while applying the method, what are difficulties we might face? The limitations have to do with, well, the method, even if applied perfectly, what doesn't it do for us, okay, in solving the problem? I hope that's clear then. Now, in terms of formatting, I have no formatting requirements, especially when it comes to font size, text size, and so on. I mean, make sure it's legible. Don't make me do all kinds of acrobatics on the screen, but make sure it's legible. Double spacing is not a bad idea, or 1.5 spacing. I mean, just because I said that, now don't all go doing double space. Do something that works. I think having subheadings to the 3 subheadings: context, application, and challenges and limitations. I think that will help you structure the document, and it will help me read. The headings and subheadings. If you have an appendix, the appendix, please don't make it a big appendix. I don't need it. And the references, they don't count towards the word count. Now references are one thing that I want to talk about. I've been asked this question of whether there need to be references to describe the context and to describe the application. I think you do need some references. Now, not a lot of them. We're not reference heavy. I think I've said this before. But what I want you to do is to be able to direct me towards what you're talking about, right? So if you're talking about a certain context and you're saying certain things about the context, I need to be able to verify that by looking at your references. The same with the limitations, challenges, and so on to a certain extent. But feel free to also use your intuition and to use the power of argument here to make certain cases. Okay, but I would like to see that. Is there need for a submission sheet? You really don't need to provide a submission sheet. I will know who is who from. There is a Moodle link now for submission if you want to. All that said, I mean, I hope that clarifies things. Okay, so I'm going to mark based on these. And the final criterion says, does it read well? Spelling, grammar, structure, etc. Obviously, it needs to read well, the document. And again, I want to repeat this idea of the references. Bring in the references as you feel the need to direct me towards some other source. Now, if you're also making sort of these strong arguments in certain places in the document, I think they will need to be supported. but this is not a completely qualitative unit. So it doesn't need to be completely supported. Every sentence doesn't need to be supported, but do a decent job of directing me to sources when necessary. Okay. So the last thing on my list is I receive emails. So those of you who know me will know that I don't check teaching evaluations until after the semester is over. So I don't really know what's going on. But one thing I will say is I receive emails on how many people have filled out teaching evaluations. And one thing I will suggest is that more of you need to fill them in. The last email said something like 10 people out of the whole cohort of 120 had done the evaluations. They will be useful, and there are new questions now on whether the online part of the experience was good or not. I think that will give us some good feedback going forward, because as I said, starting next semester, I think I know most of you guys won't be around, but we will be probably providing more of a blended environment. So we'd like to know what works and what doesn't. Okay, so good talking to you. I think I will do one more next week, since there will be a little more time before the deadline, and then we'll talk soon. Take care.